Communication Czar Podcast.
Hello. 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 Yeah. Hello. 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 Hello.
Welcome to this episode of the Communication Czar Podcast. I'm your host, Roseann Galvin, and I am committed to helping you command attention in our distracted world. If I say the word sales, what comes to mind? Do you think, like I do, opportunity, financial freedom, abundance, the ability to write your own ticket? Or do you think, like a lot of people, salesy, sleazy, slimy, being sold, swarmy, what other S adjectives you can think of? Well, wherever you fall on the spectrum, you are going to be fascinated by the insights shared by today's communication czar, our guest czar, Annie P. Ruggles. She is part strategist, part cheerleader, part sounding board, and a wealth of information for overcoming sales reluctance, sales aversion, sales allergy, anything and everything having to do with you not wanting to sell. She's going to reframe your thoughts and give you some easy to implement techniques for improving your sales game. Listen up, take some notes, and enjoy. Welcome to another episode of the Communication Czar Podcast. And today's guest czar is Annie P. Ruggles. And Annie is the dean of the anti-sleazy Sales Academy. It's easy for me to say, right, Annie?
Almost.
So you say it right for me.
I am the founder and dean of the non-sleazy Sales Academy, but I like anti-sleazy better. I think I might have to do a rebrand based on this. Dang it.
You can have a whole character anti-sleazy, get it?
Right? It's anti-sleazy, ma'am.
Oh, there she is.
I love it.
And we love you because you describe yourself as having a Hulk-like disdain for hard sales, tacky self-promotion, and overly competitive douchebaggery.
Yep.
So anybody who has that as their calling card, you now, Annie, amongst all of your many titles and many accomplishments, you are now officially a communications czar. Congratulations.
I've been telling everyone, I'm like, I'm a czar now. I'm an honorary czar. I'm a guest czar. I'm a sales czar. And they are all very, very proud of my royal appointment to sales czar of the day.
Exactly. Of the millennium, even. Well, I'm sure.
Ooh.
There you go. Take it. I am sure that, well, maybe I'm not sure. You tell me. When you were in kindergarten, because supposedly we know everything we need to know when we're in kindergarten, did you set out to be the czar of the non-sleazy Sales Academy?
Hell no. If you went back in a time machine and you told preschool me, kindergarten me, that I would be teaching sales, you would make that 4-year-old vomit cry. Like, I would be like, no, I don't. No. Ew, I don't do that. Ew.
Kicking and screaming.
No, never. And you know what's even funnier is that if you look at it this way, my mom and dad are both retired now, but my mom was a motivational speaker and a highly decorated one. My dad was a business strategist. My grandpa was a used car salesman and the one that broke the mold for, how those people can be great. My grandma was a writer. And so what's funny is that technically I wound up in the family business, but I didn't ever see it that way. And I never expected to be here. But I did grow up in an environment where entrepreneurship was a possibility. And that also fostered in me a really big desire to use whatever assemblage of skills, tips, tricks, energetics that I have and apply them to helping other people. So I am lucky that I grew up that way. So if you did go back in that time machine back to kindergarten and told me that I taught sales, at least I would sort of understand how I got there, but I would still probably cry.
Well, yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of people think that they would cry about selling or being in sales. Yet it's such an amazing skill. If you can do it well,
Yes.
the sky's the limit on all things, right? You can financially, and the places you can go, the doors that can open up, you can work anywhere in the world. There's so much to it. Yet we have this natural, at least Americans, a natural aversion, I feel, to sales. People think, oh, he's just a salesman, or oh, you're so salesy.
Right.
Wah, wah, wah.
Right. We don't want to be salesy. Like, I almost called my company the non-salesy sales academy, but I was just like, that's just too much. But no, we don't want to be salesy. And you're right. We do have this societal sort of resistance toward selling. But here's the thing. That's not anybody's fault, because that's also constantly reinforced by how we are sold to. Right? When we are sold to badly, we define selling as that act of however we were sold to. We've all had to sell things in our lives that we hate selling. We don't want to sell. We don't believe it. So that's what we equate with selling. And then when you turn on the TV, when you turn on the news, when you turn on a movie, a song, whatever, anything that has a character where there's a salesman, 99 times out of 100, that character is not trustworthy. That character is a con man. That character is greedy. Who knows? And so, like, why would any of us want to be salespeople? We have no clue what that actually means. Instead, we've been taught with our own experience and societally that selling is this arm twisting, manipulative thing spurned by greed, and it's either the buyer or the seller who's going to win. Only one can win. And I think that that's just completely untrue.
And unfortunately, other than you, it doesn't look like there's any hope for the concept of sales becoming more acceptable and appreciated and revered like it should be. Sales in general needs a major PR
Yes.
makeover.
Sales needs like a Kardashian level PR campaign, like completely redo it, like put it back out there as this whole thing that's shiny and new, because it really is totally misunderstood, just entirely and completely misunderstood. And the sad thing is the unwillingness for people to step into sales capacities just creates more and more of the problem, because the greedy people, the sleazy people, the it's you or me dog eat dog people are like, oh, cool, I'll just go into sales, because they're also being fed that that's the right environment for them. But meanwhile, there are customers out there with real needs that are only being actively sold to by sleazy people. And that simply has to change. And the only way to change it is for good people to learn how to sell in keeping with their ethics and their morals.
And that's a tall order. Where do we start with that, Annie?
I think the first thing you have to do is realize that all the negative ways that you've been sold to are not requirements for behavior. Right? So if you've been strong-armed, if you've been talked down, belittled, if your objections have been argued, if you've been told that you're cheap or stupid if you pass something up, if you've been overpromised and then under-delivered to, any of those things, that is a horrible thing that happened to you. And I'm sorry that it happened, but that is not the required state of selling. There is nothing that says, hey, you have to do it this way, unless you are in a corporate environment where they are requiring you to do things that make you uncomfortable with your ethics and morals. And if so, then you have a larger issue. Right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's a completely different thing. You can either talk to the manager, and it may not be the one that you think. Maybe you go up the chain to the manager, to the head of the sales team, and you say, hey, saying this line or approaching it this way really makes me uncomfortable. Maybe I could try it this way. What do you think? You can bring non-sleazy methods to the table. A lot of the time, the reason that the sleaze is being passed down from sales generation to sales generation is people simply don't know what else is available to them.
They have no other options, or they perceive themselves as having no other options.
Right. And then if you go to your boss and you're like, hey, this makes me really uncomfortable, or I don't think the client understands this or that, or, I really don't appreciate that I have to use this tactic. Can I try an alternative? And they're like, no, get the money. Well, then you know what kind of company you're working for. And you can say, okay, where are my boundaries within this company? Is this company a good fit for me? I'm not telling anybody to quit their job. Absolutely not. Everyone needs to put food on the table. But if the act of selling still feels like you are hurting people, breaking them down, mistreating them, you should find an environment where instead your natural empathy, your natural caring, your natural compassion, your natural energy, whatever comes to you beautifully can help you connect with the person on the other end of the transaction and sell them something that matters, whether it's a t-shirt or a year-long coaching program.
Something that's going to make a difference, which actually makes me think of some people that I've worked with in the past who are offering solutions, true solutions. They have something great to offer. We work on presentations. They'll talk about the features, all day long. Yet when it comes to actually asking for the business,
yes,
they drop off the face of the earth.
Roseann, I have listened to hundreds of sales calls, hundreds. And what you just described happens brutally often, where, especially because I call it the martyrdom of over marketing, because it's expensive, but it's shiny and we feel like we're working. So we feel like it's productive, right? And all these things. But what we do is we just market and market and market. Like you said, we talk about the features or we tell the story over and over and over and over and over. And yet we never really ask people in our funnels and our methods. And nowhere is that more clear than on a sales call where you have someone gobbling up your every word, totally interested in working with you. And then you either hit an objection and stop trying. Mm-hmm. You close totally out of character, right? You close in a way that makes no sense for you.
Right.
You transform into a totally different person and energy because you're like, oh, and now I have to be a salesperson. So let me talk like this. Or people will just go, I've heard this one more than I can count. Okay, well, thanks so much for your time. Let me know what you think. Bye.
Right. Click.
I'm like, did you just hang up on your prospect before asking them to what?
Right.
They told you everything that you said was brilliant. They told you that they were taking notes. And then you just said, cool, think it over. Bye.
Right. Have a look around. Bye. Bye. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.
Right.
Well, okay. What if they hang on a little longer and the prospect raises an objection, not necessarily a life-threatening objection, but they raise an objection. And then again, they just change their tone. They step back. They just want to get out of there as soon as possible. How do you counsel people to deal with objections?
So here's the thing. An objection is not necessarily a red flag that a rejection is coming. Mm-hmm. And sleazy selling will teach you, you got an objection. That person is slipping, rein him back in. Lure that puppy in with everything you got. That is not the only way. Absolutely not. The way that I teach objections and the way that I look at objections and the way that I personally handle objections is this is actually a great sign that something that I have said has piqued their curiosity enough that I've moved past their base level of interest and now we're getting deeper. If they're offering me an objection, it means that something is unclear, they are concerned about something, or they're curious about something. That's awesome.
Those are all good signs. Yeah.
Exactly. And yet the majority of sales training will tell you, book after book, training after training, shark after shark will tell you that the best thing you can do is just totally get them to disregard their objection. It's expensive. Actually, it's quite inexpensive. You should go find some money. Maybe if you stop buying lattes, you'd be able to do this. Like, what?
Right?
What if you said, it is an investment, but if it is profitable, then it's affordable. So let's talk about how this is going to make you money, or let's talk about my payment plan, or let's talk about, if you're worried about the investment, let's talk about some people you could talk to that might tell you about how they're seeing ROI come in. There are a million different ways to do this, but the way that's being taught is tell the client they're cheap.
Yeah. And make them feel bad about the whole situation. Right. And now we both feel bad.
Right. Now we both feel bad.
Well, that actually gets me into something, and I have strong opinions on this, and you may disagree. We'll still be friends. What do you think about scripts, sales scripts?
I hate them.
Me too. I love you, Annie.
I love you too. I hate them. I hate them. I think the whole theory behind them is wrong. And I don't normally like to say that things are wrong because I don't normally like to make enemies. But sales scripts, I hate you.
Yeah, me too.
In that, the whole strategy behind that is let me get some of your time, energy, and attention. And with that time, energy, and attention, I will cram a prepackaged spiel down your throat, spend 28 minutes of a 30-minute call with that cramming. And then at the very end of the call, I'll go, okay, well, the price for that is $2,300. What do you say?
How about that? We want to, yeah.
I know. What? Like it's that's one of the other things that I hear in the calls all the time is I was like, you have not learned a dang thing about the person on the other end of this transaction. As such, how can you have any certainty that what you are proposing is right for them? So I hate sales scripts. I hate them.
But the problem is that there's a contingent of the sales world that thinks that, oh, you have great scripts? Great. I want to work for that company. Or, oh, I'm nowhere without my script. It's sort of like a pacifier. They hang on to it. They think, okay, this is going to do it for me.
Yeah.
It does the opposite.
It does. It totally does because it takes out the specificity. It takes out the energy of the moment.
Right. The personalization.
Right. It takes out all of it. Like when I had to do scripted sales stuff back when I was like in my 20s and working in a bar basement, I would have to call people all the time and I was trying to sell happy hour parties.
Okay.
They gave me a script and they're like, Annie, do not budge from the script. Don't even think about budging from the script. And I was just like, absolutely not. I have a musical theater degree. I'll do your damn script, but I'm going to do it in an Irish accent just to keep myself from falling asleep. Like I was so obnoxious, but I actually invented a game to keep myself from falling asleep once they kind of relaxed on the script on me. Everybody else still had to do the script, but they're like, she's just going to rebel again, so let her do it once. And my numbers were good, right? Because at the end of the day, that's all they care about. People were coming in the door. That's all they care about. But what I would do is I would take a poll and I would say, hey, what word should I sneak into this conversation? Like, what word should I sneak into the script?
Ah, okay.
And they're like, platypus. And I'm like, okay, platypus.
Bring it.
Like, how are we going to do platypus? I'd be like, hey, thanks so much for taking my call. This is Annie calling you from Howl at the Moon, Chicago. Listen, you want a happy hour party? I'll get right to it. We don't care if you save it for a holiday. We don't care if you decide to come in because it's your platypus's birthday. We don't care. Well, you can't bring your platypus. And everyone in the office is listening to this, just dying, laughing. But even though I was doing it largely to entertain myself and as like an act of 20-something rebellion against the idea of selling scripts and how much I hated them, what happened was it changed things up. So I brought freshness to each call.
Right. The energy.
The energy was different. And what I wish I would have done was found a way to actually listen, because on the call, what I was really listening for is like, oh, here's my opportunity to say platypus. But even then, if I had stopped and been like, okay, but hold on. What if I can get the client to answer this really weird question? Or what if I can get the client, the prospect, to do things in a certain way? Then I would have been listening to them and not just waiting for my chance to talk. So the platypus game, as it became, known, is not a good sales technique. It's a really great way to keep yourself from falling asleep when you have to make pit calls. It's not a good customer service method, but it did get me out of the habit of just autopiloting everything I was trying to say in order to just make sure I hit my mark of deliver this speech 50 times the exact same way, because I could not keep my energy from making that conversation stale. And even though I was saying it 50 times a day, the person on the other end of the transaction was hearing it for the first time.
Right.
And if I don't bring first time enthusiasm, they're not going to get the first time appeal of whatever the heck it is that I'm trying to get them to do.
They don't know what else has gone on. It's just them. They're only interested in their own world, what's important to them. So now we know we don't like scripts, and we know the platypus game isn't really true communications are, because you're just sort of waiting for an opening to drop it in. What are some success stories that you've seen where people have transformed from this idea that, oh, in order to be selling, I have to be a certain way, where they can really be more relational, be more of a consultant helping their client get what they need.
The most powerful tool that I can share is 2 words. Shut up. Shut up. And here's the thing. I am a loud person by nature. I am a loud introvert. But the way that I got to be a loud introvert is when I am uncomfortable, I babble.
Mm.
And a lot of us do this. I call it sales vomit. Where we just get on the call. Maybe we don't have a script, but then we're unmoored from the script and we're just like, I don't know what I'm saying anymore, Roseann. So I'm just going to be like, blah, 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 sales babbling. And that happens especially when we name the price for something, right? That is the number one point for sales babbling, where it's like, and the price for that is $2,300. Now, I understand that may not be what you were expecting to pay. And also, like, it's more than my competitors, but also it's less than some of my other competitors. And this is 6 modules and it's 12 weeks of your time. But listen, you seem like a really nice person. And I was on your podcast. So really for you, how about like 1,800, but then also payment plans, but also you seem like a nice person. Did I already say that? Okay. So what about like $200? Is that better?
Please.
Right? Like that is the stuff that creeps in because we're anxious. And so we babble. Instead, stick the landing like a gymnast, name the price, flip the tables back on them, give them space and time to think about it by shutting your beautiful mouth up so they can hear themselves think.
So true. It's so challenging when you're not used to that, but so true.
I mean, so true and so obvious seeming, right? In that if you went to a restaurant and you're on a romantic date and you've really been looking forward to this restaurant, maybe it's a special occasion, maybe it's not, whatever. And I am your waiter. I come up to the table and I say, hello, sir. Hello, madam. Please let me tell you about today's specials. And then you're like, yes, please tell me about the specials. So I tell you about the specials in beautiful detail. And then immediately after I tell you about the specials, while you're still looking at the menu, I lean over your table and I go, what did you decide to pick? What did you decide to pick? Well, the shrimp is market price and I can find out what that is for you, but it's market price. So it's competitive. Like it's the same thing that I have everybody down. What do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? Do you want red wine? Do you want white wine? What do you want to eat? You would leave that restaurant.
Run.
You would 1-star Yelp that restaurant. You would be gone because you would be like, oh my God, most obnoxious service in history. And yet on sales calls, that's exactly what we do. We babble over their thinking time. We ask great questions, scripted or not, and don't listen to the answers because we're on to the next question. Slow down, ditch the spiel, favor questions, and listening to the answers.
That's it. They just did that. It would all be better, wouldn't it?
Honestly, it's like wild, night and day wild. And one of the things that I used to do, and I don't do this anymore because it's A, obnoxious, and B, takes a really long period of time, is when I would get a sales vomiter, no judgment, I was one. And sometimes when I'm scared, I can still get that way. But what I used to do is I would take the audio of the sales call and I would just cut their babbles out.
Oh.
And then I would just put like spaces and I would send it back to them and I would be like, this is what you needed to say. And I cut out everything you didn't need to say. And it was largely just like questions, responses to what they said on the questions. Next question. But I cut out all of the like, well, I think you'll understand that if you look at it this way, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. All that leakage, right?
Right? Like, I don't care about that. We got to find out what metrics are important to the person we're talking to. We don't even know if the person that we're talking to is the ultimate decider. You could be giving your very best scripted spiel at somebody that's got to run it up the chain, and they have a bunch of questions that you didn't answer that their bosses are going to ask them when they go to run it up the chain, and they can't do it.
Right, because you haven't given them any time to ask those questions, any space.
No space, no time.
So now what are some baby steps people can do? So shut up is our number one, our overarching bit of advice. Ask for the business and then be quiet. Talk about your price, be quiet. How about drawing the other person out to uncover their motivations, their hot buttons? What are some of the things you suggest people do to get your client talking?
One of the things that we have to do well, no matter what you're selling, is talking about the pain points. And that is another area where we are all taught some pretty sleazy stuff. Like the example I mentioned before, where it's like, well, it wouldn't be so expensive if you weren't so bad with your money and bought drinks all the time. Now, we don't say that, but we're like, hey, nice Starbucks. Maybe if you stop drinking coffee,
Right.
you could pay for this program, right? Ew, ew,
Yeah. That's what my dad says to me.
ew. Like, no, don't do that. But I think part of it is we want to be sensitive in how we talk about others' pain, and we want to be boundaried in how we talk about our own, but the pain still has to be present. We buy problem solving. We buy solutions, but we can't sell a solution or have someone buy that solution if we're not willing to say, let's look at your problem together and see if this is the right solution for you. And we have to paint the emotional world of that problem, right?
Right.
But one thing is, if I tell you, hey, your business is failing, and you're sales avoidant and you need to get it together or you're going to kill your business. And by the way, my program is not that expensive, so maybe you should just stop drinking coffee. What's happening is I've made myself the hero in the story, and I've made you in your own story the villain. Like, hey, idiot, be better about your money, fix your problems. Only I can save you. Right?
Right.
That
Okay.
is a very, very effective way of sleazy selling. That is the same thing as like that knockdown, drag out version of dating that was like the, whatever that was called.
Speed dating?
No, but where they would have like the guys go in and the guys would be like, tell her she's fat but pretty.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right? And you're like, what? Like, what? Like, tell her she's pretty for a fat girl. That'll break her down and build her up simultaneously. Like, that is not at all what we want to do, but it is very commonly taught. Instead, remember, in order to motivate someone into what you're selling properly, you are their advisor, the sage. You're the Dumbledore. You're not Harry Potter.
Okay.
They have to be the hero of their own story from start to finish, even in their struggle. The villain is what is causing the struggle. And your role in that is to provide the items, the methods, the solutions that will help them get out of the struggle. If you look at your spiel, whether it's scripted or not, if you look at the reality of the pain that your client or prospect is in, make sure that you are telling that tale with them at the center as the hero. And you will already put them in a place that is much more willing to buy because it's a hopeful, productive place as opposed to a desperate, knockdown, guess I have to do this place.
Got it. So instead of forcing them in the corner, you're sort of shining the spotlight on them.
Yes.
Got it. And you've got the life preserver in this case, the solution.
Yeah.
That they're going to be smart about and take action on, which is a testament to their intelligence.
Yep.
I'm getting this. Okay. Now, how about this? How about tell us a success story or two that you've helped somebody turn around from either the sleazy or I think even more common is the just sales avoidance.
On the first half, right, on the freeing people from the sleazy stuff, honestly, I wish I could liberate more people from sleazy selling, but that has to come from the management level down, which is why I'm like, look at what you're selling, look at how you're being taught to sell. And if it's not right for you, maybe make a long exit plan out. But for everybody else, that especially people that are lucky enough to either be selling their own products or services or people that really believe in what they're selling, whether it's nonprofit, for-profit, B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. But if you look at it in a way that you can say, I am helping someone by providing this. Okay? I am helping someone by providing this. Then you already go into the conversation knowing that they're not necessarily going to say no, because one of the clients that I had, one of my most beloved cherished clients that came in would get on calls, and without her knowledge, she would pretty much say the entire time things that were along the lines of the client is probably going to say no. So she was doing so much apologizing. Thank you so much for your time today. I know how incredibly busy you are and how annoying it is to be sold to.
Oh,
What?
no.
What? No. Hey, I'm so glad that we could find a time in both of our busy schedules to, get together and discover if we are the right fit for each other. We got half an hour. Here's what we need to do. I got a bunch of questions about you. You got a bunch of questions about me. Let's throw the script out the window and see if we're a good fit. That is how you thank someone for their time.
And they feel like you've acknowledged them.
Right. They feel acknowledged. That's totally it, right? So that was one of them, is like all throughout the apologies that creep in. And I asked myself, why do these apologies, why do these excuses come in? And I realized that it's because they are getting on the call waiting for the no. Right? They're waiting for that shoe to drop. They're waiting for the client to inevitably say no. So they're just biding their time, going through their spiel, knowing that at the end of it, they're going to cross out the name and move on to the next. Do not bring that energy onto your call. If you are providing something of value, if you are providing something that they want or need, number one, nothing that you're doing inherently is sleazy if you're working with someone to solve a problem.
No, quite the contrary. Yeah, you're helping them out.
The other thing is, put them in the driver's seat. If we're cramming a spiel down their throat, then we're driving. And we're getting them on our calendar and we're saying, you're on my turf now, baby. Strap in and listen to what I have to tell you. That is what people don't like. That's that feeling of like, ugh, I am being sold to. Ugh, I don't like this. It's like, and now we go over here to the other thing. What I see with my clients over and over and over, though, is if we take that burden away, then they can truly connect by saying, hey, listen, you're in charge of this conversation. You're the client, you're the prospect, and I'm the provider. I want to make sure that this conversation goes wherever it needs to go for your questions to be answered. So if I say something that doesn't make sense or you want to interrupt me, please do, so that I make sure that we end this conversation with no loose ends, or at least we know what questions we still have to answer. Same thing. It empowers the buyer to lead the conversation. These are these small shifts that make such huge, profound differences in my clients' calls. It's night and day. And it's not just about the call. If you go into a networking situation, assuming that somebody doesn't want to talk to you, you're going to act the exact same way.
Right. Give them lots of reasons not to talk to you.
I know you're busy and there's a lot of people here. I'll let you go. But anyway, it was really nice to meet you. Annie, you have my business card. I think I gave you my business card, right? Okay, cool. Cool. Bye, Roseann. Nice to meet you. What?
Yeah. Energetically, not something that's appealing to anybody.
Not appealing, not memorable, and certainly not confident.
No. And if they're not confident, then who wants to do business with them?
And here's the thing, you may not be feeling confident in that moment. And if selling situations scare you, great. It means that you care about the person on the other end of the transaction and you don't want to hurt them and you don't want to mislead them. If you're nervous in selling situations, awesome. We can be friends.
Right.
However, the best way to keep that nervous energy from ruining the call is back to those two words, shut up.
Hard to do, but valuable
right?
Advice. Absolutely. Now, you put your client in the driver's seat, and that's going to enable them to feel comfortable dictating what you talk about, addressing their concerns, making it more customized to them, right? So now they raise objections, and you're confident enough to respond to the objections. How do you get your clients to then transition into the specific asking for the contract, asking for the business after they've addressed the objections? They've done a good job up until now. Now it's time to really ask for the contract. What are some of the suggestions that you tell your clients to just get them into that frame of mind to ask, make a clear request, and then be quiet?
Let me teach you one of my very favorite closes. because I just love it. I call it the string of yeses. A lot of other people call it like the yes assumptive close or the assumptive, whatever it is. And it's all versions of the same neuroscience whateverness, which is not my area. So look it up. It's very effective, I promise. And, lights up things on your brain on an fMRI. But let me teach it to you because it's really, really easy. If you are lucky enough to be having a sales conversation with someone, we want to get them primed to do what? We want them to get them to say yes, right?
Of course.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead you to say yes to me a whole bunch of times before asking for that final yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I could say, Roseann, we've spent 34 minutes together so far and they have been lovely. I thanked you for having me on your show, right?
You did.
And then I would say, okay, and we talked about why shutting up is important, right?
Absolutely.
And I told you that objections are actually places that we should double down, not run, right?
Yes, you did.
And handle objection, da-di-da-di-da. I told you about the pricing, da-di-da-di-da. I told you about my competitive difference, right? And I'm just recapping. You don't have to say right every time. That's a very Annie Midwest thing to do. You don't have to do that. But I'm saying each and every time, have I answered this question with you? Yes. And we talked about this value prop. Yes. And we talked about this competitive advantage. Yes. And we talked about payment plans. Yes. Okay. What I'm doing is simply recapping, but what you are saying is, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did, which tells your brain my questions have been answered. I am safe to proceed. And also along the same way, we're having them go, yeah, no, we did. We totally did. Yeah, I really love what you said about shutting up. Oh, yeah, we did talk about competitive advantages. We did talk about pricing. We did talk about this. You did tell me that I could talk to your testimonials. Yes, 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 yes. And then we go, cool. Well, now that you know everything that there is to know, are you ready to sign up today?
Sure. Absolutely.
It's 100% easier if the yes that you get is not the first yes, is the big one. You know what I mean? If you get yeses before the big one. And that's the thing is, you are literally just saying the outline of the book you just gave them.
Got it.
At that point, if anything's unclear, you get a no, right? Did I tell you about competitive advantages? Did I tell you about the payment plans? Did I tell you that you can pay $45 a month instead of paying the $500 flat? Wait, no, you didn't. Wait, what? $45? Oh, yeah, it's $45, right? If they miss something, or if, heaven forbid, you miss something, then you're still in that same energy of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't tell you that. Hold on. Pitch stopped. Let's go back. I have to tell you about this. It's really important. Okay, now that I told you that and all the other stuff, let's pick up where we left off. And then I told you about this, and I told you about this, and we talked about this. And then you can also bring up stuff that they did. And you told me about your experiences in selling and what you loved about it and what you hated about it, right? So it's that collaborative energy of just, yep, got it. It's that assembly line feeling of yeses. And the thing is, it's not about building them up into a frenzy and making them just go, yes, right? That's not
Right.
the point of it, although that is kind of what it feels like. Really, honestly, more, it is reiterating, like I said, these are the things that I need you to know in order to buy with confidence. Have I covered all of those areas? Have I answered all of your questions? Have I showed you this from an emotional angle, from a strategic angle, from a detailed angle? If you're getting them to answer all those questions with yes, they are going to feel empowered to buy because there's nothing left holding them in resistance.
Exactly. I love it. You've addressed everything for them
Mhm.
and they're confident where they stand. Good. Very good. I love it. Okay. Well, Annie, couple quick questions as we wrap this up here. One that I like to ask all of my guest czars, and that is, what is on your nightstand? What are you reading?
Oh, I am reading the best book right now, y'all. And I never expected ever to be obsessed with this book, but I am. It is called This Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. And it is a book about fungus. I'm not even kidding. It's a whole book about molds and mushrooms and the way that they change environments, the way that they change our bodies and our minds. And I swear, this book about fungus has completely changed my view of like humanity and and selling and like everything else. So take a break from the marketing and sales books. There's a billion out there. If you need a recommendation, DM me on any platform. I will tell you what marketing and sales books to read and which to avoid. However, give yourself a break, give yourself some nerdery, and read this book about fungus. It is wonderful.
Wow. Okay. This is a first. This is a Communication Czar first. The book about fungus and how it relates to sales. Now I'm intrigued.
It doesn't have like direct correlations
Right.
in selling, but it does have so much about the way that people impact each other without knowing, the way that our environments are constructed around us and how that can change day to day. And the fact that there are these misunderstood organisms that aren't quite an animal and aren't quite a plant making all these decisions for us. And it just made me look at the world with such a layer of wonder that after being locked down for a year, I was really craving and reawakened curiosity in me that I desperately was missing.
Oh, okay. That's quite an endorsement. I love it.
Yes, and his name, the author's name is Merlin Sheldrake. How can you not want to read a book written by someone named Merlin Sheldrake?
Merlin Sheldrake, exactly. I think he's pretty smart from jump, right?
Right?
Like, he had plans, big plans when he was born.
He's probably a wizard.
Probably is. Oh, I'm in. Okay. Now tell us what's next on the horizon for Annie. Now that 2021 is here, brighter days. What are you working on? What are you excited about?
I am so madly in love with my own podcast, which is called Too Legitimate to Quit. Instantly actionable small business strategies with a pop culture spin. Each week I sit down with a whip smart guest. We talk about their zone of genius, and then I ask them to tie their topic into one of their favorite pieces of pop culture. Mm-hmm. So we have talked about Dave Matthews Band, Star Trek, Lizzo, Frozen, actually specifically Frozen 2, never a dull moment over there on TLTQ. And other than that, what I'm doing each and every day is I'm calling out to empaths and I'm calling out to introverts and to bleeding heart do-gooders to say, avoiding sale will kill your business. Mm. Don't do that. That's not what selling is. And I am devoted to my one and only product, which is my program, Sales for Empaths, where I get to buckle down and do just that.
Good. And how can people find you, get more of you? Besides, I will certainly link your podcast in the show notes. But how else can they get more of Annie?
My website is a wonderland of shiny things. So it's AnniePRuggles.com. If you go to that website, you will find my podcast plus all of the other shows that I'm doing, like this one, although this is the only one that has given me a title, so I'm very biased. I am very, very owning my czarness, right? But there's also, I said my free masterclass, which is called Make Selling Easy Without Getting Sleazy. It's a 45-minute talk with 5 truths of sales in it, plus my follow-up, No, Not Now. And maybe you could take a quiz that's called Hey Empath, is your special gift killing your business? You can see pictures of my dogs. You can find my Instagram. You can do pretty much anything you want over on that website. But what I really want to encourage people to do above and beyond that is, if you are stuck and you don't know how to eradicate the sleaze from your selling, or if you know that you're sales avoidant, feel free to reach out to me on a platform where I can directly respond. What's easiest on that is normally, yes, through my website. There's a form there. There's a little chat bubble. You can reach out that way. But Instagram, I'm at Anniepreneur, ANNIEPRENEUR. And on LinkedIn, I'm under my name. Both of those apps have chat features. If you have a question, ask me directly. Obviously, I'm not going to hard sell you, and I'd love to move that needle for you.
Great. Well, Annie, you are a generous font of wisdom, now an official czar, a well-earned title. And I appreciate all the good work that you're putting out into the world to enlighten us about sales and the importance of sales and the way to do it so it works well for both the seller and the person who's purchasing. And with that, we want you to keep up the good work. We'll have to have you back again. It was a fun conversation, and we really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with our Communication Czar community.
Oh, it's been a privilege and an honor to be among your hall of czars.
Amen. All right. Thanks again. You've listened to the Communication Czar podcast. Now, if you want to do me a favor, you can like, subscribe, review, tell your friends to listen to the Communication Czar podcast, of course. Your font of useful information for improving your ability to communicate and connect with other people. If you've got a show idea, you want to be on the show, or you've got a bone to pick, something bad to tell me, please do. You can shoot me an email, roseann@communicationczar.com. Here's the thing. You need to spell my name right. Roseann. Thank you very much. And by the way, please check out the website for the show, communicationczar.com. There you can find our past episodes, show notes, articles, information, all kinds of good stuff. Check it out, and you can even download some fun, interesting, useful information about improving your ability to communicate. Check it out, communicationczar.com. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it very much. And please go out and connect with someone today.